Hey everybody, Cliff Ravenscraft here from Podcast Answer Man, and I'm sitting here on my front porch. It is going to be a beautiful day. It rained this morning, but the sun is coming out and the birds are singing, and I absolutely love it out here on the front porch starting my day. Today, I want to talk to you about 8 different benefits that audio podcasting offers that no other online platform can even come close to providing. Obviously, there are benefits to other platforms, but I want to talk to you specifically about the benefits that exist really to the nth degree with audio podcasting. And the first one I want to talk about is this benefit called the smaller haystack. When I really got serious about broadcasting a message out to the world and it became available to us, I started with a blog, a written blog. And this is how many people still start today. But what you may not know is there are over 400 million active English language blogs today. What this means is that whatever your topic of interest is, whatever your niche focus or niche focus, however you want to say that, whatever your focus, whatever your topic, no matter what it is, if it's underwater basket weaving, I guarantee you there are thousands, if not even maybe tens of thousands of other blogs on the same exact subject. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a blog. I certainly have a blog still today. It's over at podcastanswerman.com. I don't write nearly as much for the blog specifically as much as I used to, but that's just because I don't love writing. I thought that I did, by the way. Back before YouTube was invented and all the other video platforms, before there was audio podcasting and stuff like that, I loved blogging. And why did I love blogging? I loved blogging back then because it was the only way for me to get my message out to the world. It was the only way for me to communicate what it is that's inside of me that I wanted to share with the world. And it was an effective tool, and it still is an effective tool today. But when it comes to getting your message noticed in this noisy world, imagine this whole idea, the needle in the haystack. We all know this metaphor. It's like searching for a needle in the haystack. It's nearly impossible. And for you to consider your message, this tiny little needle in this massive haystack of 400 million active English language blogs, sure, there's a chance that people will find you on Google, and anybody, any one individual that finds you on Google is a worthwhile cause to reach them and to share your message with them. But increasingly, it's more and more difficult for you to get noticed when it comes to all the other competition out there for people's attention in the blogging space. So if blogging has such a massive haystack and your message is like this little tiny needle, what do? Well, most people turn to video. People say, like, the number 2 search engine in the world is YouTube. Well, that's great, but did you know that there are over 400 hours of brand new video content uploaded to YouTube every single minute? 400 hours per minute of new content uploaded to YouTube. Your needle is even, it's probably so much you can't even see it. And the screen would not show you the haystack that YouTube is. So, by the way, YouTube is incredibly awesome. And it is the number 2 search engine in the world. And I create content for my YouTube channel. I absolutely believe in having video content. YouTube content, Facebook Live content, all of those things are awesome. I make use of them. In fact, I'm doing it right now. However, when we look at audio podcasting, there are only a few 100,000 audio podcasts. Now, a few 100,000 is a big number, okay? But that's the number of podcasts overall worldwide. A few 100,000 compared to over 400 million, and we're talking billions of hours of video on YouTube, maybe trillions, I don't even know if you consider how much content overall is out there in the archives of YouTube. But it is comparable. All of a sudden, you've got this little haystack, and your needle is like pointing up out of this haystack. I just helped Kim Albrecht. She was a recent graduate of my Podcasting A to Z course. And as a student, she was launching a podcast, and she was doing research, and she noticed that over all of the years of podcasting, there were several podcasts out there about special needs children, okay? If all of those were still being actively produced today, and we're talking 15, 20 of them, if all 15 or 20 of them were still produced today and you created an excellent podcast, you would stand out. You would rise to the top. Cream rises to the top, right? So that is one thing that you have going for you. However, in Kim's case, even if there were, let's say, 50, 60, or 100 different podcasts devoted to children with special needs, okay, being the topic, she had a very interesting focus. She wanted to create a podcast about transitioning from, okay, you've spent most of your life raising this child with special needs, but now your child is over the age of 18. Maybe your child is in his 20s or her 20s or 30s or 40s and they have special needs. The topics and the amount of information and the education that you could provide and encouragement to that new season of life for people is so unique from children of special needs. So it's now a podcast for parents of adults with special needs, adult children with special needs. There is the opportunity for you to narrow down. And Kim, the only podcast out there on this, I think you could probably search iTunes and just do a search for special needs, and you're probably going to find Kim Albrecht's podcast out there. The second benefit that I wanted to share with you is no screen time required. Now, for those of you who are watching me on Facebook live stream, for those of you who are watching me on YouTube, chances are, I bet you guys did not write down when you woke up this morning, I'm going to see if Cliff is broadcasting live or if he has a new YouTube video on the topic of 8 benefits for podcasting. No, but what you're doing right now, you're watching me. Okay, and some of you have other things that you could be doing or probably should be doing. All right, but you're watching me instead. Now, yes, you can pause this and turn it off and come back and do it later. But the reality is that with video, you're less likely to do that. And in fact, in the world of video, it's well known that you typically have somewhere between 2 to 10 minutes of people's time and attention. And then after that, people fall off. They stop watching the video. But if I was to take and create an audio podcast and put it into the Cliff Ravenscraft Show on the same exact topic, I've built an audience of thousands of people around the world who are subscribed to this, and they're eagerly looking for each new episode, and they're going to be listening to every word from beginning to end. Why are they able to do that? Because there's no screen time required. You see, there are many people out there who can listen to your audio podcast while driving their car, while doing the dishes, working out at the gym. There are people who listen to my audio podcast while mowing the lawn. They can actually be getting some of those things done, like commuting to work. Did you know that 97.5 million people in the United States alone commute to and from work? And the average commute time is 26.2 minutes. But instead of listening to mindless dribble, they could be listening to you. And because there's no screen time required, they can keep their eyes focused on the road, and they can be driving and listening to every word that you have to say. No screen time required is awesome. Now, the next thing I have written down here is number 3, greater influence. Because there's no screen time required, and the fact that it is so easy to hear you word for word, listening to every syllable you speak, and they typically will listen to you from the beginning of your podcast episode all the way to the end of your episode. Because people are listening to every syllable of every word that you speak, and most of them are listening with earbuds. I would actually pull mine out, but if I put I have the Apple AirPods, and if I pull these things out and put them in my ears, it will probably mess up the audio on my phone, so I'm not going to do that. But people will stick these things into their ears and they're hearing you in stereo. Now, how many people out there, how many of you, when somebody comes up and whispers right into your ear, how many people do you allow to do that in your life? If a stranger came up to you and started whispering in your ear, how would you feel? Would you be repulsed by that and back away? But what if it was your significant other? Your children, if they come up and whisper into your ear, isn't that a more intimate form of communication? And just to think that people are actually putting earbuds in and you are speaking directly into their ear canals. That's incredible. So not only is it a more intimate way that most people listening to you by putting you directly into their ear canals, they're also hearing, again, every single word that you speak. I've been listening to my friend Father Roderick von Hogan since, mid-2005, okay? He was one of the first podcasters I ever listened to. I've listened to every single podcast of his show, which is today called The Break. Well over 1,000 episodes. I've never missed an episode, and I always look forward to his next show. And for the most part, over the years, he's been very consistent, putting out a show every single week without fail. But over the years, there have been times when he will go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks. And during those 2 or 3 weeks, my life is actually different. I feel different. My mind, the way I think is different because I'm not being influenced by his worldview. And the thing is, I'm not Catholic, but I just love Father Roderick von Hogan. I love his approach to life. I love his zeal for life. I love his hope and his positivity. I am positively impacted on a weekly basis by my friend, Father Roderick von Hogan. And when he goes on vacation and his podcast isn't there, my life is different. My friends, that is a very significant amount of influence. And the people by the way, when I choose a podcast to listen to, I do not take that decision lightly because I understand that the podcasts that I'm subscribed to and that I do listen to on a weekly basis, those people are the single most influential people in my life. If I allow myself to listen to somebody once a week, every week for 30 minutes to an hour without fail, I never miss an episode. I hear them for, let's just say, up to 50 hours a year on a weekly basis, communicating to me their values, their message, their education, their encouragements, their inspirations. Those are the people who are the most influential people in my life, or at least among the most influential people of my life. And I understand, as an audio podcaster, that I am one of the significant, most influential people in the lives of practically most every single person that listens to my audio podcast. Because at least the ones who have been listening to me for at least a month and have are now convinced that they want to listen to every episode of my podcast from this point forward and never miss an episode. And those people are going to be hearing every word that I speak on an ongoing basis. And I'm at the place, and it didn't take too long to get there, but I'm at the place where if I was to go on vacation and not produce an episode ahead of time, I would start getting emails. Cliff, where are you at? I was looking for you for my weekend run. I was going, you weren't there this weekend for me. And I get those emails if I've ever missed, and I have over the time. However, I take my podcast production very seriously today because I know that there are people out there who are looking for the message that I share. So that is greater influence with podcasting. No other platform can offer you this one. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some people that when they're live on Facebook, I check them out to see what they're doing. How many times do I watch a Facebook Live video from the beginning to the end? Hardly ever, unless it's a very short Facebook Live. How many people out there do I actually watch every single Facebook Live video they ever do? I can't think of one. I can't think of one person that I know. Even the people that I love and admire the most, I don't watch all their Facebook Live videos. What about YouTube? YouTube, I'm subscribed to a bunch of YouTube channels, and some of them I find wildly entertaining. Some of them I find very encouraging and uplifting and inspirational. Some of them, just their creativity of how they tell a story is engaging, and I get creative ideas from that. But how many YouTube channels am I subscribed to where I never miss an episode or a video that they publish to their channel? Zero. Not a one. There is not a single YouTube star, influencer, or anyone that I have as far as a YouTube where I never miss a single one. The fourth benefit of audio podcasting is this ability to connect with thought leaders, industry experts, and also even the celebrities in your area of interest. The more fame and celebrity that that person has, the chances of them giving you any amount of their time decreases. So the more famous and the more successful, the more of an expert they are, the more people that they've attracted, and have the more people that follow them, and the more successful anyone becomes, the less accessible they have to become. And this is required for them to have a balanced life, because somebody who is a celebrity that has hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of people following them, that's a lot of people who would love to just pick their brain, if you will, right? So these people have gatekeepers in their lives and stuff like that. But what if you were just getting into whatever industry you're looking to jump into? You want to be able to become a rising star and a thought leader of your own. And you would love to just get some of those industry leaders, some of those thought leaders, some of those celebrities, and you'd love to just have a 30-minute, 45-minute, or even an hour-long conversation with them. You could create an audio podcast devoted to that particular area of interest that you have. And you can build an audience of people out there who are also passionate about this. And the next time one of those industry leaders or thought leaders or experts have a book to promote or a product or service that they're looking to get the word out about, and then you reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I want to let you know I've been following you for years. I just pre-ordered 50 copies of your book that I'm going to give away to my audience. And what I'd love to do is bring you onto the show to talk about this particular book. And I want to let you know that I'm going to be promoting it to everyone and blah, blah, blah. As soon as you have the word, I have an audio podcast with a built-in community of people, I'm giving away copies of your book, all of a sudden these things start to click inside. It's like, wait a second, this would be great PR. This would be great promotion. This is a great way for me to expand my reach or to change more people's lives. By the way, celebrities aren't all into this for more celebrity and more fame. Many of these people are into it for inspiring and encouraging others. Their lack of accessibility isn't because they don't care, it's just because they have to leverage their time well. If you have an audio podcast, all of a sudden spending time with you, answering your questions, giving you some insights from their experience and stuff like that, it's not only talking to you, which by the way is valuable, but the reality is so many people would love to have that one-on-one time, energy, and attention from that celebrity or thought leader. But the reality is they could actually have the conversation with you, and knowing that it's recorded, know that it's going to help hundreds, thousands, or maybe in your case, it could eventually be tens of thousands of people who are subscribed to your podcast. So the more successful you get at building an awesome library and archive of podcast content that is having a great and powerful positive impact in people's lives, and all of a sudden your chances of getting a yes from your invitation to connect with those thought leaders, industry experts, and celebrities, your chances of getting a yes go up. The fifth benefit is the fact that you get to connect with other people around the world who share your interests and passions. I live in Northern Kentucky. I'm sitting here on my front porch in Northern Kentucky. Cincinnati area, which by the way, I live in Northern Kentucky, which is just outside of Cincinnati. It is called the tri-state area, very heavily populated Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and I think it's southern Indiana. I live in this big, huge circle, and so many people, but do you know how many people I interact with on a, let's even say a yearly basis in this Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, Indiana region? On a yearly basis, do you know how many people that I connect with that share my passions for online business, for online content creation, for technology and stuff like that? How many people outside of my own family and Tim Schmoyer? Zero. On a yearly basis, I connect with almost no one here. It was in the winter of 2005 that I discovered this love for the TV show Lost. Okay? This TV show was absolutely amazing. And I would want to talk about it with everyone. There was all these mysteries, hidden clues. This just was the most incredible passion I had that was just like a hobby, just, a release from, whatever daily grind. And so I was so passionate about this TV show. And locally, there were about 3 other people at the time that shared an interest in the TV show. And they would give me about 3 to 7 minutes of their time. And I would say, hey, did you see this? And they're like, oh, yes. And they would share the things that they were excited about. But as soon as I started sharing some of the hidden clues and did you see this? Oh, you need to go back and watch it again. And they're like, okay, you're a little over the top, Cliff. I mean, they didn't say that, but you could just tell that it's like, okay, okay. Can we talk about sports? Did you see what happened with the Bengals? I'm like, what? Everybody in Northern, you could talk about the Bengals with anyone in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. Why can't we talk Lost? I mean, we didn't have that kind of conversation, but that's what I'm thinking. You know, it's like, come on. All my life, I've been waiting to have something that so many millions of people around the world are loving this TV show, and let's talk about it. I've got so much. I'm so passionate about my theory that I have about Thomas and the baby Aaron. I know where Aaron came from and why the Dharma Initiative are trying to take baby Aaron, and this adoption is all set up. I'm telling you guys, you got to hear my Thomas theory. Do you know how many people in this area wanted to talk to me about Lost? After about 7 minutes, nobody. So here I am out here. And so what do? I turn to my blog, and I got a few hundred people around the world that are listening or reading my blog. But I found 5 different podcasts devoted to the TV show Lost. Okay, this is how consumed I was with my passion for Lost. I subscribed to all of them. I listened to every episode of every one of those 5 podcasts every single week and absolutely loved it. Some of them had tens of thousands of subscribers. Some of them had a few thousand subscribers. Some of them had a few hundred subscribers. And one of them, Ryan and Jen Azawa from the Transmission podcast, they allowed people to send in audio feedback. And so I found a way to record an audio file, and I recorded a 3.5-minute audio of me explaining my Thomas theory. And at the end of it, I said, if you guys want to see the screen captures that actually shows you side by side all the things that I just talked about, and you want to read my theory in full, check out ravenscraft.org. And I submitted that. I sent that as an email to Ryan Azawa. And Ryan and Jen played it in their podcast. And within like a week, I went from a few hundred readers of my blog to over 1,000 readers to my blog. And Entertainment Weekly, EW.com, actually did an article on their site about my theory. I started getting emails from people. They said, Cliff, this is absolutely amazing. I loved hearing you talk about your theory. You have some great insights. Why don't you create your own podcast? Even Ryan said, Cliff, you should create your own podcast. And a bunch of it didn't take too much for me to stroke my ego. I'm like, okay, I would love to create a podcast. I'm a geek. I'm into technology. And so I went to Best Buy, spent $35, downloaded some free software I heard about, figured out this RSS feed stuff, put my podcast out online. Those 5 podcasters that already existed had already created this thing called the Lost Podcast Network, where each of them had their own podcast feed, but they also had a shared feed where people could subscribe to one podcast feed that would have all the podcasts devoted to Lost in it. I was subscribed to it. And so were tens of thousands of other people. And so by my 3rd episode of my Lost podcast, I was invited to join the Lost Podcast Network, and I had tens of thousands of subscribers out of the gate. By the way, this does not happen for most people. Results here are not typical. But what happened as a result of that, I am now connected to tens of thousands of people all over the world who share my level of passion and enthusiasm for the TV show Lost. And I'm telling you, it was incredible. I created my own online forum, thousands of people actively, daily, having conversations. But then it grew beyond that, and we connected and built real relationships. And all of a sudden, I found and discovered through audio podcasting, when you build relationships with people around shared passions, rather than starting things off by talking about the weather, sports, and religion and politics, which, by the way, most of those things start to divide us more than connect us together in a relationship. But when you start a relationship with other people where you both are passionate about this interest of yours and both emotionally invested in it, connections form so much quicker and they're so much deeper that it may be months before you realize that fundamentally, politically, as far as faith or whatever, you may have such opposing, opposite opinions about politics or religion and all this other stuff that normally would have hindered your ability to even establish the beginning of a relationship. Next thing you know, it's been a couple months of you becoming like close friends before you realize that you're so vastly different in other areas, and it doesn't hinder your relationship at all because you've developed such a close friendship. My friends, podcasting gives you this. And it gives you this on such a level way beyond what my blog was able to do for me and any other YouTube or Facebook live stream has ever done for me. Audio podcasting where people are consistently tuned in. And my passion started with the TV show Lost, but they expanded to podcasts about books like the Twilight Saga podcast at twilightsagapodcast.com, hungergamespodcast.com. My wife and I did that one as well. I did a podcast called Business Tech Weekly at businesstechweekly.com. I did an entire podcast on social media at socialmediaserenity.com. I did an entire podcast about the Apple/Mac platform called Help I Got a Mac at helpigotamac.com. All of those podcasts with over 100 episodes each. In fact, in the past 12 years, I've done more than 30 different podcasts and way over 3,600 podcast episodes. And today there are literally over 1.5 million people in this world who have listened consistently to my voice for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. And I can tell you right now, at least Wayne Henderson has listened to my voice for over 3,600 hours. And Wayne Henderson, how are you, brother? Wayne Henderson is not the only one. There are other people who have listened to every episode of every podcast I've ever produced, which is incredible. But anyway, the ability to connect with others who share your passions. My life is so much different because when I have a passion, when I have great zeal and want to talk about a topic, with an audio podcast, you never again have to be alone about your passion, your interest. You can connect with other people around the world no matter what it is. It's incredibly awesome. Benefit number 6 is your ability to connect other people with shared interests and passions to each other. Number 5 was your ability to connect with others and build a relationship between you and that audience, okay? And trust me, that is a benefit. It stands on its own. But there is another benefit when you take this person here who has come to know you and this person over here, and you bring those people together in a relationship. They would have never met ever in a million years. There's no chance they would have ever met. But this person listens to your podcast, this person listens to your podcast. They both are maybe engaging and interacting with you, and it may be you personally that connects them and introduces them to each other. But you can also create environments where this can happen automatically without you even being aware of it. So you can create online forums. Today we would do Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, whatever the case may be. You promote that group that you are facilitating to your podcast audience, to your mailing list that you've created, and you just get people to plug in there, and people are building relationships with each other, shared passions. So they don't have to actually create the podcast to find and connect with other people around shared passions. You've actually created the podcast and drawn the audience. They've come to know, like, and trust you, and so they heed your call to join that community. And they are now benefiting as a result of the work that you've done with your audio podcast and this building of relationships. There will be times where I go to a conference in a town or a city where I've never been before, and I'll host a meetup occasionally. I don't do these all the time, but I'll host a meetup. And at that meetup, I'll say, hey guys, I'm in this area, and I'm in town. If you happen to live in this area, or if you're also in town for this conference, let's get together and have a meetup. Sometimes I've had as few as 5 people come and participate with me in a meetup. And by the way, that was one of my favorite meetups I've ever had with those 5 people. I'm still connected with every single one of those individuals today. I still get messages from them on Facebook, on email. Those relationships would have never happened had I not created that in-person environment. And of course, that happens on a much bigger scale with larger events that you'll put together for meetups and conferences and stuff like that. Today it's happening on a very awesome scale with my next level workshops that I'm doing. And of course, through a 4-week session of podcasting A to Z as well. Number 7 is the ability to entertain, educate, encourage, and inspire other people around the world. Now, you can do this through YouTube, you can do this through blogging, you can do this through a lot of other platforms, but I want you to remember going back to the greater influence, the fact that people are consistently hearing your entertaining message, your educational insights, your encouraging tone of hope and positivity, and your inspiration to take action, to take areas of your life to the next level. The consistency part of this amplifies your ability to entertain, educate, encourage, and inspire. And of course, on top of that, benefit number 9 is when you spend time doing this on a consistent basis through an audio podcast, you literally will change people's lives. You will have a positive and influential impact on the lives of people where their lives are different today than they were before they started listening to your podcast. And I absolutely know that because I have thousands and thousands of letters, postcards, emails from all over the world who have told me that their life is radically different today as a result of the podcast content that I've created. Those, my friends, are the 8 benefits of audio podcasting that I believe that podcasting alone can offer you at this degree that no other platform can touch. Oh, by the way, just a quick reminder, one of the reasons why I fired up this video anyway, my next session of Podcasting A to Z, as I'm recording this, is coming up on Monday, July 10th. You can learn more about Podcasting A to Z at podcastinga2z.com. Again, that's podcastinga2z.com. It is a 4-week online group coaching program where I am your personal coach walking you through how to create an audio podcast, a successful audio podcast, right out of the gate. All right, I'm going to walk you through every single step in the process, and for the 4 weeks of this course, I make myself completely available to you. You can ask me an unlimited number of questions, and you have direct access to me. It's not a member of my team. It's me personally answering every single question you could possibly think to ask me for 4 weeks. Now, again, the more successful you become, the less accessible you have to become. And this is a limited opportunity. I do for some what I wish I could do for everyone. And so I can only take about 20 students per session in this course. I've been doing this, currently I'm on my 31st or 32nd session, I can't remember which, but I've been doing this a couple times a year, every year since March 2011. At this point, I've had over 660 students go through this course. I've maintained a 100% satisfaction rating. I would love to be your personal coach for 4 weeks. Even if you're watching this after July 2017, just go to podcastinga2z.com and look to see when the next date is and register today. I would love to have the opportunity to connect with you, to build a relationship with you, to get to know what your thoughts and passions are, how you want to change the world, and I want to help you create an audio podcast that will give you all of these benefits that I've talked about here today. Again, the space is limited. Head over to podcastinga2z.com. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.